Hey, welcome to the Mind Your Funds podcast. Y'all, I am super excited. Crystal here, your host, your founder, your creator. Oh man, the everything of this movement. This is what I'm calling it. I'm super excited because I have had some things going on and a big old shift is happening for the Fearless Money brand and for the Mind Your Funds podcast. So we are starting a new year. This is like a new season for the podcast. This is clarity and a shift and we're focusing. And I just had to get clear on where I would really wanted to take this thing. So from August 2019 to August 2020, we're going to be super focused and 2020 vision for real, because we're writing the vision and we're making it plain. So that's a whole nother episode. But today I wanted to talk to you about 3 things you forgot to include in your budget. Yes, we're talking budget, but it's not what you think, okay? Because here at Fearless Money Inc., we mind our funds, meaning everything is more than money. Before we can actually get that actual wealth, that manifestation of those coins in the bank and those 6 and 7 figures that we want to see in the bank, we have to get that 6 and 7 figure mentality first. So you will hear me using financial terms, but I will be applying it to mindset. So here we go. Let's dive right on in. 3 things that you forgot to add in your budget. 3 things you forgot to think about before you started this budgeting journey, this financial journey. 3 things that most people really don't think about and plan for when they start budgeting. So we're talking mindset today. So I'm sharing these things because after my long, extensive journey of going back and forth with a budget, diving in and then quitting, and diving in and then quitting, and feeling overwhelmed as soon as I say, okay, we're gonna get a budget together. I had to go back to the drawing board and understand why I could not stick this budget thing out. What was my problem? Why would I do it for, y'all, I don't even think I made it through a week of budgeting from the time that I started. So I had to get an understanding, because if I couldn't focus on budgeting, there was no way that I could focus on, getting my credit right, building my wealth, building a $1 billion brand. How can I do that if I can't even discipline myself enough to stick to a budget? So I really had to have like a self-check moment. Like I really had to say, okay, Crystal, what is up with you, girl? Because you need to get your money together. The Lord said be a good steward, but for some reason you just can't. Every time you look at a budget, or you think the word budget, or you open your budget planner, why do you feel overwhelmed? So let's get into the number 1 thing. Your journey will not look like everyone else's journey. And this is a mistake that we make when we set out on a path to just live a better life. We begin to look at everybody else. We begin to compare, and comparison is a killer. So then as we look at everyone else that has gotten a little further along than we have, and it's, a goal that they have reached something that we want to reach, we begin to compare our lives, or we begin to try what they did, or we try to live like they do, right? But your journey to wealth is not going to look like everybody else's journey. So this is where you really have to get your mind right, because we are all unique. And yes, we are all doing similar things, because everybody has to budget. Everybody has to manage your money. Everybody wants to build wealth. Everybody wants to live a great life and leave a legacy. That's similar for sure. We all have the one main thing in common. But what we forget is that my journey is not going to look like my sister's journey as she dives into budgeting, because we budget because we want to be better stewards of our money. We want to manage our money better so we can gain more, we can have increase, right? We can expand our territory so God can, open up the heavens and pour out a blessing, right? So we just want to live this purpose life, but we know that in order to live our life on purpose and do the things that we were called to do and, bless the world and be a light, we have to be good stewards over everything. And that includes our money. And you know what? God is really huge on money. He is like, money is going to make or break you, right? But he does tell us that we have to have, our mind right. And we have to understand that we are fearfully and wonderfully made. And our journey, that makes us unique. So our journey is not going to look like anybody else's journey. So when you're not careful of that, you begin to compare. So I want you to look at your own journey and stay focused, look at your lane, right? So this is something that I did visually. I'm going to share this with y'all. Something I did visually a while back. I sketched out this garden, and I have to find that because I'm gonna have to share this on the Instagram page. But I sketched out like this garden, and it was me, a garden of me, right? So I did like these different rows of seeds, and I began to just look at my garden, look at my life, and look at the places where things have, grown, and where I still have weeds at, and where I can actually reap harvest at. And I realized at this time when I did that sketch of my garden, I was like, woo, I got a lot of weeds and a lot of seeds that are not growing, and I'm not able to harvest anything. And I had to ask myself why. And that was one of the reasons why. It was because I was looking at everybody else and I was trying to do what everybody else was doing. And I jumped into a budget, so I figured everybody else's budget would work for me, right? But no. That's not even the case, which leads us into the number 2 thing. You have to set goals before you get into a budget. You have to know what you want, what you're going after, what's the target, what does the end look like. This is why we have to write goals. Now, throughout my entire journey, even during the times when I would get overwhelmed and just quit, I never wrote out goals. And when you write out goals, that means that you are getting super focused and you are saying, okay, this is what I desire and this is what I want. This is what I'm trying to reach. So let me write out these goals and keep my mind focused. So for me, I have a goal of wanting to buy 10 acres of land to start, for my family. This is going to be like our ranch and our compound, and compound sounds so weird, y'all. But this is going to be like a big piece of family land where we're going to have so much like recreation and things going on, and build our dream house on this land. And I want to farm, and I see a lake and, jet skis, and, I've even imagined the life of some of my other family members, and even like my father-in-law and, my sister and brother-in-laws, like my entire family. I've imagined them on this 10 acres of land, and I see what they're doing. I even see myself building, houses for them to live on the land with us. So you have to write out your goals, because this will set your mind and get your mind right. And when you write out the goals, then you can begin to break down what you need to do. And you may need to work on yourself first. Not saying that you're putting your finances aside, but when you write out your goals require you to assess yourself, because now you have to ask yourself, what am I going to do? What do I have to do? What is required of me? What do I have to let go of? What do I need to gain? What type of relationships do I need to get? What type of work do I need to do? What type of money do I need? So this is what happens when you begin to write down goals. Now you have to ask yourself questions. And starting at square one is not going to be, it's not going to be easy, because now you have to get disciplined, and you have to change for sure, because that is definitely something else that, a lot of people don't understand when they begin to budget. If it's something that you've never done, you've never managed your money properly, Now you have to change and become another person, which is going to require you to change habits, and it's going to require you to talk differently, and you're going to have to let go of these sabotaging thoughts, these toxic thoughts, these things that have caused you to sabotage yourself every single year when you know that you've wanted to accomplish something. You have to let go of these toxic relationships and environments. I'm telling y'all, it gets deep. That's why your inner wealth is very important when you are going after the outer wealth, the physical things, the material things, the houses, the cars, the money, the businesses, the legacy. You're going to have to be 100% up here, and you're going to have to know yourself. You're going to have to know yourself. So that goes back to number one, the fact that your journey won't look like everybody else's journey. It's going to require you to know yourself, because when you get to know yourself, then you can be specific about what you want. You can say, okay, this is what I really want. I don't want what everybody else wants. I don't want that life. I don't want that life. I want the life that God has for me. Y'all, this is getting deep. This is getting really deep. So let's move on to number 3. So after you have set your goals, and see the goals as your why, and you know this is what you're aiming after and your target, you're gonna write the vision and make it plain. So you can run with it, your spouse can run with it, your children can run with it. You have to write it out. You can't just have all this stuff in your mind. You can't say, okay, I'm setting this goal for this time. Like, we try to mentally put things in our mind, and you know, we can't do that. We have to write the vision and make it plain. So you have to write it out, write out your plan. You know, you have to put it in places where you can see it. And you also have to write it out so your spouse can look at it, or, you know, your accountability partner. Or when we write out the vision that we're going after, you're always setting something in place that can help someone later on down the road. So trying to mentally keep things in your mind won't work. But the Bible says, write the vision and make it plain so others can run with it. Now, I'm a firm believer in writing. I believe writing is truly a gift, and I love the fact that I could go back and look at things that I've written down. And I also feel like when you write things down, like mentally, it does something for you. Like when you write things down, you are like scribing this down, and okay, now you've brought it out of your mind and you've put it on paper. So now it's becoming a thing, right? I mean, not necessarily, depending on where you are in your mind, right? But now it's going to become a thing. So writing the vision and making it plain, and also putting it in places where you can see it, putting reminders and just reminding yourself what you wrote down, and every day, like tracking your journey, or just going back and looking at that, because when you try to keep things in your mind mentally, you'll forget, because we have so many thoughts throughout the day. So, you know, I had this conversation with somebody a while back, and they told me that they don't write things down because they'll keep it up here. And I'm like, okay, we'll see how that works out for you. So write the vision and make it plain, and make sure your spouse and your children are on board, that they can see this plan and read it, because as you go throughout the journey and the times get hard, everybody can look back on this vision, this very plainly written vision, clearly written vision, and say, okay, this is why we have to push through this so we can reach our end goals. The fourth thing, which is a bonus, you have to pray throughout this. Like, you have to pray and stand firm on what you are going after. Prayer changes things. Yes, it does. But prayer also keeps you grounded, and prayer also allows you to openly communicate and say, I need your help, Lord. I need your help throughout this, because I don't want to do this on my own. You are in control, and I need you to open up the doors for me. I need you to align everything and let your perfect will be done. And if anything in this journey to my inner wealth and outer wealth does not align with the plan that you have for my life, I'm asking you to fix it. and change it and do it for me. So we cannot forget prayer. Prayer is like not only the bonus, but it goes along with, it's like, 1 through 10. We need prayer for everything. So these are 3 things that you may have forgot to add in your budget, things that we don't really think about. Mindset wise, we just jump into things, but we have to make sure that we are connected with ourselves and we know who we are. And that helps us when we begin to become overwhelmed. We can continue to press through things. So I want to encourage you to share these 3 things with someone that you know is going through a journey like this right now. They have big visions and big goals, but for some reason they may be struggling, or they need a little boost or some extra help, or maybe just hear some information that they didn't even think about. Because like I said, I know I'm a businesswoman, right? But when I'm always failing and I find myself in the same place, living the same life, I didn't accomplish any goals, nothing changed for me. I had to do a complete 360 and say, okay, I have to get back to me. And that required me to get my mind right. And I had to get to know who I was. I had to go back to the person that I was before life happened to me, right? I had to get back to all of the visions that I had written over the years and really get back to who I was and stop comparing myself to other people and doing things that everyone else was doing, because that is not what life is about. We will all do similar things, but because of who we are, and we are unique, we are one of a kind. There's nobody else out there like me. Nobody will be able to do life like me. Nobody will be able to do Fearless Money like me. Nobody will be able to do this Mind Your Funds podcast like me. So get back to you, tap into your inner wealth, and mind your funds.